This is the National Association of Street Vendor. It's a membership-based organization. It was initiated by Seva and started as a networking organization. It was registered in 2003, and when we had begun networking, the main problem was of organizing. There was no information about street vendor organizations. We are a federation of 538 organizations representing 3,61,000 street vendors from 22 states of India. Because of the efforts of NASVI, we got a national policy in 2004, and the policy was later revised in 2009. And we have now renewed the focus on law for street vendors. We also got the RSBY extended for street vendors, and we have been engaged in many consultations. We also got a policy for the food vendors. Now I'll just focus little on the issues of inclusion. One is a layer of exploitation, whether it's street vendors or waste pickers or domestic maids or construction workers. There are systemic layers of exploitation. A street vendor has to buy from a particular wholesaler. There are many leaders who will give space to the street vendors. If there is a survey by municipal corporation, the leader will ensure that this person name is not there in the survey, because then that person will get a license. Then there are major issues of financial inclusion. I don't understand, even in a city like Delhi, we approached the banks to get a scheme for street vendors across the country. So UNDP has sponsored a survey, and the guy who is doing in Delhi, the other day he was saying that he met a street vendor in Sadra who had taken a loan of 1 lakh last 15 years, and every month he is paying 10,000 rupees, and the principal stands as it was 15 years back. Then the latest issue is of violence and terror. Terror is being used as a tool against excluding the urban poor. We all saw during the Commonwealth Games, they were pushed to the railway station, they were asked to go to their villages. In the markets, they simply say, no, there is a terrorist threat, so we will not allow them to be here. Then the labor laws, the access to labor laws is not possible for the informal workers. They do not even know, they do not even go to the labor department. The labor department also doesn't know how to deal with that. We had all gone to Colombia. They took us on an exposure visit. In Colombia, the municipal waste is handled by a company, but all the recyclables the company has to hand over to the waste pickers cooperative, and the cooperative has the right over that. So there are many methods of inclusion, but provided these initiatives have to be there. How inclusion is possible? We all, the kind of background we have, the kind of organizing we have, it's not with the informal workers. When we began organizing, we realized that there are these community-based organizations, but half of them are only registered, and overwhelming are registered under Society Registration Act. And in India, in most of the states, Society Registration Act is of no use, because if you do not follow statutory rules, norms, there is nobody to ask you, nobody to follow you. Most of these organizations have designated leaders called pradhans, and these pradhans are also one-time leaders. So whenever there is crisis, they come together. Otherwise, in normal cases, there is no organization. Only 1% I consider them has got good structure, and a negligible percentage of such organizations have bank accounts. But these are the organizations of the people, and they are with the people. So we are working, trying to strengthen such organizations. What we are doing is that at every level we are creating federations, so that the federations can take up the issues at the city level, and the federations can also take up the issue at the national level. I don't know, whoever I meet, I request them to visit a municipal corporation to understand what kind of governance are we subjected to. Then there is a state versus municipal bodies, then there is a commissioner versus mayor. If mayor says yes, commissioner will say no. If commissioner says yes, mayor will say no. Then these commissioners look towards the states for directions. They fear giving rights. We were having meeting with the LG. The MCD commissioner, such a high-ranking official, is saying, oh, if you give them rights, then it will be a problem. I told him that even under our constitution, property right doesn't exist. Why you are fearing about this license and other things? Then there are many development processes going on. We talked about it. There is lack of political will. Then the policies also change at the state level depending on the whims. That is a major problem of inclusion. As the policy or any law goes down the layer, the federal structure from center to state to municipal bodies, there are so many changes that sometimes you will feel that whether this policy is pro-vendor or it is anti-vendor. I'll give you just one example. When the Bhubaneswar Municipal Corporation decided to register to legalize the street vendors, they depended on the street vendor organization to give them information about street vendors. But when MCD decided, they gave it to a company. The survey was never complete. There was controversy in the survey. There were illegal names that came up, and the process never started. So this innovative methods have to come up. Fortunately, Supreme Court in October made a judgment. The judgment clearly says that if the fundamental right of the hawkers have to be protected, then there has to be a law has to be enacted, and the law can only protect, and it has given 30th June 2011 as the last date. So we are advocating very rigorously for a law. We just finished a campaign with Kumari Seljaji. 1 lakh street vendors wrote to her, and it seems that it is having some effect on the ministry. And why we need a law? Because the policy leaves out railways, which controls large part of land. It leaves out natural market. It leaves out provisions, enforcement mechanism. What if we have a law? What if you have a policy? If there is no enforcement mechanism, how can a poor person negotiate with municipal corporation, negotiate with a high-ranking official called commissioner, negotiate with a high-ranking politician called mayor? So we need an enforcement mechanism, and we also want that all the existing vendors should be recognized, and then eviction must be a last resort, and then space of vending should be according to the population of street vendors. Thank you.